give up. I have worked so hard, literally. I went to school for 10 years for a higher education that doesn't do me any good. I've been working 2 jobs in restaurants for 2 years, 50 hours a week for nothing. Doesn't mean anything. In fact, I'm getting evicted next week after my son almost died in the end of March with diabetes, and now he has type 1 diabetes. I'm dealing with that, and then my grandma had a stroke 10 days after that. And now I'm behind on my $2,500 a month rent that I can't work enough to catch up.
Hey TikTok, I'm just on here wondering if anybody's feeling the same way I'm feeling. I'm from Illinois, and I feel like the gas prices and the electric bills and the prices of food is just so overwhelming anymore. Like, I'm wondering if anybody else is feeling like they're drowning and they can't get out. I work overtime and I cannot get above water. I mean, I literally have no gas for next week. It was either that or get a few groceries to get by. I hit my local food pantries. I'm just wondering if anybody else feels like they're drowning.
Family, I've been seeing videos online of Americans crying on TikTok saying there's been a very high cost of living in America right now. People cannot afford basic commodities like groceries. You know, the prices of gas, you know, for you to fill your tank is just unimaginable. And Americans are saying that it is too much, and most of them are taking it online to cry. We're also seeing a lot of news updates of Americans losing hope with life, saying that the cost of living is becoming unbearable each and every day. Rent is out of control. Groceries are very expensive. You need a loan for milk. Gas feels like you're donating blood every time you fill your tank. Today, we are going to react to these real stories and talk about why the cost of living in America is crushing people right now. So family, I want you to watch these videos of Americans complaining about the cost of living, most of them even crying, saying the cost of living is just unbearable. Fam, let's watch these videos. Once they're done, we will get back and do a critical analysis about the same. Let's watch these videos together, family.
What the fuck? What the fuck? $17.49 for 1 can of coffee in America. This used to be $11.99 a month and a half ago. Yeah. Are we gonna go uncaffeinated in America? Because of what the fuck? What the fuck? $17.49 for one.
Tomorrow is my husband's birthday, so I just ran to the grocery store with my 3 kids and picked up a bakery cake, 3 birthday cards, some chocolate chip cookies that I can binge eat my feelings away, lemonade, granola, Greek yogurt, and a tiny, like, quarter pint of ice cream. $89. That's not even a meal for my 3 children. $89. And then I see this report, coincidentally, shortly after I get home, probably because, you know, Apple is reading my mind, about how grocery prices in the year 2025 are at a record high, higher than 2024. What happened to the president that was going to save us from these high grocery prices? It's August now. What has happened? Nothing. How are we supposed to survive this? Now a birthday card and lemonade are a luxury for a middle-class American family. I hate it here. These cookies are delicious.
A pound of ground beef, the cheapest beef available is now more than the federal minimum wage. A pound of ground beef at my local King Soopers is $7.49 because it's not on sale. The minimum federal wage is $7.20 something cents. Chuck roast, which has always been the cheapest roast available, is now $9.99 a pound. And it's not like you can just buy a pound of it. It's a roast. And that makes chuck roast, on average, about $28. You know, one of the reasons that I shop at places like Costco is because I can afford a membership, and I buy in bulk because that lowers your cost per pound. But of course, poor people are penalized because they can't afford to buy in bulk. It is the penalty you pay for being poor. You know, you go to the dollar store and you buy in small amounts, and you get less. I made a video recently, and I talked about inflation. And someone was talking about how, you know, if you look at inflation month over month, it's not any higher than it has been. You know, but that is, of course, you know, the aggregate of inflation. But if you look at the cost of food, it's crazy. You look at the cost of medication, you know, and now we're going to have tariffs on medication. Now, someone said in a video that where they live, formula was $70. I looked, and again, I live outside of Denver, Colorado, and at the Target, formula was $60. And it was specialty formula, but some children need that. And not everyone can join Costco because there's a cost to membership. How are people going to live? Oh yeah, we're making America great again. Take care, stay safe, build your community. Take care, everyone.
Okay, what the fuck is going on with food right now? This is literally 93.7. It's all organic or whatever, all grass-fed for $10.49 a fucking pound. That's ridiculous. Even down here for $85.15, it's more. It's $11.50. You know that's organic or whatever. It's still, you have 96.4 for $8 a fucking pound. What the fuck's going on?
Hey TikTok, I'm just on here wondering if anybody's feeling the same way I'm feeling. I'm from Illinois, and I feel like the gas prices and the electric bills and the prices of food is just so overwhelming anymore. Like, I'm wondering if anybody else is feeling like they're drowning and they can't get out. I work overtime, and I cannot get above water. I mean, I literally have no gas for next week. It was either that or get a few groceries to get by. I hit my local food pantries. I'm just wondering if anybody else feels like they're drowning. But anyway, I hope everybody has a great day.
If you think beef prices are high right now, just wait until the fruits and vegetables aren't making it to the grocery store, because farmers in the West Coast, California, Oregon, Washington, are reporting that 60% of their crop is remaining in the field or on the trees or on the vine. Blueberry farmers letting 60% of their crop rot, saying, hey, the raccoons and squirrels are going to have a great year, but I'm not. Cherry farmers, same thing. 60-70% of their crop is rotting on the trees because migrant workers who typically follow the harvest up the coast of California aren't making that trek this year, all due to immigration and immigration policies set forth by Republicans in the Trump administration. They're unwilling to take the risk of being detained by ICE, even those that are here legally, because they don't want to just disappear, and their family members that rely on them have no support. So they're staying close to home. And for Donald Trump, he says, oh, we need to fix what we're doing with immigration and we need to support our farmers. But he really has no answer. In an interview with CNBC yesterday, he essentially said, oh, we'll fix it in the next couple weeks. But we know the next couple weeks never happens with Trump.
Every time this comes up, I want to talk about it because I find this so interesting how so many people don't understand that you can't budget yourself out of poverty. Being poor is more expensive than being wealthy. Not just because of the by volume money you have to spend, the percentage of your income that you have to spend, but the things you buy are actually more expensive per product. And I was talking to a girlfriend I had some years ago, and she brought up the question. She's like, I just wish more people had financial education and they could, do better to learn how to budget themselves a little better. And maybe that would help. And I had to explain to her, I was like, when I made $15 an hour, my ex-wife, who I was married to at the time, this is going back 15, 16 years ago, she made $8 an hour working at the Meijer store in Michigan. And so with that money, we were down to sub $1 left over, paying all of our bills. We had no debt, but that is how tight we were budgeting. I would go to the store and we would go to buy toilet paper, and a 4-pack of toilet paper was almost $4. So let's just go ahead and pretend $1 per roll. Now, if I had been able to spend $20 on toilet paper, I could have gotten a 48-pack. I could have gotten that toilet paper that I still would have used, but had I been able to buy it in a larger quantity, I would have been able to get it for 40 cents a piece. So much of the things that poor people engage in are because they literally cannot afford the more expensive option. Another fantastic example, and if you've been with me for a long time, you've heard this. When that same time frame, we were having to go to the laundromat to wash our clothes. It would cost about $80 a month to go to the laundromat to wash clothes for 2 adults and a baby. Why didn't you just buy a washer and dryer? When you're budgeting down to the penny, you can't afford to just go spend $200 on a used washer and dryer. Now, when I got a raise, I went from $15 an hour to $25 an hour. My paychecks were substantially bigger. And the first thing I did was go buy a washer and dryer. Now, that washer and dryer paid for itself in 2 months. We're paying $80 a month. It essentially paid for itself in 2 months. Now, every single month moving forward after those first 2 months, I have access to an additional $80 in my bank account that I didn't have before. You throw the toilet paper on there, over that, just those 2 little things, it's $84 a month that I now have access to that I didn't have access to before because I had the financial power to make the smarter financial decision. When you are poor, you do not have access to this power. And that's just 2 little baby examples. When you're poor, and you guys have made it this far, I want to know what other examples, these are my 2 favorites because they apply to me, but I want to know other examples that you've seen like this.
To all the other countries that wonder and say that Americans are just fat and lazy and they don't do anything to better themselves, this is what $115 gets you. Let me show you. We were able to get some Ritz crackers, 1 thing of cereal, some ramen, more ramen, tuna, bag of potatoes, a few avocados, some snacks, desserts, 2 bags of chips, ice creams, pizza rolls, some sausage biscuits, 1 thing of Dr. Pepper. All of this for $115. We're not making it. This is going to feed my kids for less than a week. And this doesn't include any dinners. There are no dinners here. This is lunch and snacks. I don't know how people are making it. It's hard out there.
Apparently, there's still a lot of you out there thinking that it's easy to be poor and that people just want to live off the government. When we're talking about work requirements and things like that to be on Medicaid and other government assistance, let me pull back the curtain a little bit as someone who has been both a child and an adult on government assistance. It is so insanely difficult to get on government assistance. It is difficult to stay on government assistance. It is difficult to navigate government assistance. Living on government assistance is no way to live. Nobody in their right minds wants to live off government assistance. I need you to really, really hear that. I grew up to a disabled mom who lived on government assistance. It was not easy. And please know that many people on Medicaid do work as much as they can. They want to work. A lot of the trouble with getting to work, if you're a parent, is lack of childcare. And so with work requirements, do they cover for that or no? Are single parents expected to just find childcare so they can work, so they can keep their kids on health care? Anyway, it is difficult to be poor. It is exhausting. It is taxing. It is not easy. My life is much easier when I'm not poor.
I just got back from the grocery store and I went there to get blueberries. There were two options, organic and non-organic. The organic blueberries were $8.99 for the box. The non-organic blueberries were on sale for $1.99. So like I can either buy the non-organic and have cancer later because it's all I can afford right now, or buy the organic and not pay my mortgage. So I'm just curious, like, how are people surviving in this economy? Like, seriously.
So I'm about 20 minutes outside of Seattle and I just paid $23 for these 4 grocery items, and I'm curious, is that anywhere near like what you would pay in your area, wherever you live? So I got some Nanners. I got some Star Brand Kroger coffee from QFC, and I got 2 Seattle's Best. They were buy one get one free. This was $23.36. Is that high, low, or normal?
I am 48 years old and I am broke. When I say broke, I mean $0 broke, no money. And I am burnt out to the core, and I'm done living like this. I have worked in group homes and nonprofits for over 25 years now. I've poured my heart into my job, gave it everything I got, but I'm burnt out. I don't have any more to give. Between rising costs, bills, broken appliances, I hit my breaking point. I knew I had to try something different. If you're at your breaking point, comment enough. See you later.
I don't know what most people are going through, but it would seem like there's a lot of people that have a hidden amount of issues and problems and debt, and some people own a house or they're paying a mortgage on their house, but they just so happen to be house poor. It is hitting people all across the board, and I think that the majority of it, because a lot of people don't want to really say, well, I made bad decisions and I did some bad things in my life and it didn't necessarily translate into me having success, or I mortgaged my future by having fun right now, or, I took out a student loan that wound up costing me quadruple and I still haven't paid it off. And so a lot of times we get involved with bad decision making, but we don't want to take accountability, which I found is the first step to really getting yourself out of that situation in the first place. And so what people do is they expect to live a certain life, or they say, yo, like this woman said, I'm flat broke and I poured everything into my job. But they didn't realize that the job was just a means to an end. It was an opportunity for them to make as much as they possibly could. And then for them to translate that into, a sustainable living. Contrary to popular belief, your job is not your identity. All right. I want to be very, very clear with this. Your job is not your identity. It's not your job's responsibility to make sure that you are taken care of for the rest of your life. It is your responsibility to trade in your time for money and then use that money to make sure that you are good for the rest of your life. If you are not saving when you are younger, if you are not investing when you are younger, and if you are in your 20s or you in your 30s, that is the most ideal time for you to invest in yourself. But the first thing that you have to do is take responsibility. The second thing that you have to do is you have to make sure that you lower your lifestyle. And we don't want to lower our lifestyle. We want to ball out now. We don't want to save anything for later. The smartest people only use 10 to 20% of what it is that they take in order to run up a bag. But again, people will feel entitled and say, well, it's hard out here. The rent is this much. You don't have to necessarily live in the places where the rent is that much.
Family, I have felt a lot of pity to the Americans in the video. Most of them are complaining over the high cost of living. Some of the things that they have said is that they are working 2 jobs, but the cost of living is very high. Imagine even 2 jobs is not able to help them sustain how expensive it is to live right now in America. Family, just imagine how much these people are struggling to ensure that they provide for their children, to ensure that they can pay for groceries, to ensure that they can pay for rent, and still that is not enough. Rent is at least $2,000 per month for a 1-bedroom unit. Just imagine, at least $2,000 and above. A lady was crying in the video saying she pays $2,500 and she's a widow, for rent alone. Family, imagine how expensive life can be in America. People are just one paycheck away from them losing even their houses. Imagine if you're not paid for a month. That would mean that you'll have to start living in your car in the streets. That would mean you may sort to take a storage unit, and hide there for that to be your home. Many Americans are risking and doing that. Now I understand why I see most people parking their cars and sleeping inside their cars. Now I understand why many people are living in storage units in America. I understand why many people are being taken out of these same storage units, citing that it's not safe for them to stay there because there's no ventilation. Many a times somebody could lock from the outside, and somebody could be a victim of fire. They cannot be able to escape. These are the risks that Americans are taking because of the very, very high cost of living. People are just living in fear, because you worked so hard, but that cannot be able to sustain you and your family. I went further to do my research in regards to why the cost of living is very high in America and why most Americans are complaining. And here's what I found out. This right here is becoming normal. People are no longer just struggling, they're drowning. And it's not because they're lazy, it's because the math doesn't add up anymore. People are not lazy, people are actually working very, very hard, but now the math is not adding up because whatever you're getting and the costs, your expenses in a month are not adding up. People just go bankrupt immediately they are paid. The very first week, once you get your salary, you must sort all these bills. You must ensure your car has gas. You must ensure you pay for your rent. Groceries are very expensive. And we've seen most of the Americans in the video going to supermarkets and saying they do not understand how they've used $100 in just buying snacks. Just buying very, very basic things that now are skyrocketing up, and life is just becoming unbearable. If the cost of food commodities is expensive, that means that even putting 3 meals on a table in a family with children is just thrice as hard, and life is just becoming unbearable. When we talk about housing, rent has jumped in most cities by 20 to 50% in just few years. In some places, a 1-bedroom costs over $2,000 a month. Imagine how crazy that is. 1 bedroom alone. Imagine you have children. How do you guys survive? What will it take for you to have a 3-bedroom or a 2-bedroom? If a 1-bedroom can cost over $2,000 a month. That shows us how parents are struggling right now in America. When we talk about groceries, eggs, bread, and basic vegetables cost nearly double what they did cost a few years ago. These are basic commodities. Eggs, bread, groceries are costing like twice, double what it has been costing over a few years. That just shows you how Americans are struggling. Gas and utilities, gas prices spike whenever there's global tension and electric bills are hitting record high. When we talk about the wages meanwhile haven't kept up. Minimum wage in many states is still around $7 to $10, which can't even cover half the rent. Just imagine when your wages are always constant, but the prices of basic commodities are going higher. If you cannot be able to finance your health care, we saw cuts in Medicare and Medicaid. That just shows you how Donald Trump has made the life of Americans to be miserable. He has made the life of Americans to be very, very difficult. If you're not able to fund your housing, you're not able to buy groceries, you're not able to fund your hospital bill, that just makes life so, so difficult. And many people are going to the streets. Many people are surrendering to pay rent. They'd rather stay in their cars. They'd rather hire storage units and pretend that they're businessmen and women and sleep there by the night. How do you survive in a system where your paycheck dies before the month is even halfway done? How do you survive as a people? Look at their faces. This isn't fake. This is a grown adult breaking down because she has to choose between paying rent or buying food for her kids. And that's worse. This is happening to millions across America, not just the poor, but the middle class too. This is happening to millions. The videos you've seen right here are just but examples of a few people who've taken it online to cry and lament how they're feeling. Corporate greed, companies rising prices way beyond their costs, inflation from supply chain issues and global conflicts. There are bigger problems in America, including corporate greed, where companies are rising prices way beyond their costs. We have inflation from supply chain issues and global conflicts. We have housing shortages caused by investors buying up homes and raising rent. Government policies that haven't adjusted to the modern cost realities. People are working 2-3 jobs just to stay afloat. And when you're working that much, you can't rest. You can't plan for the future, and you definitely can't enjoy life. I believe this isn't just an economic crisis. It's a human crisis. The American dream is turning into the American struggle. And until the wages match the real cost of living, until housing becomes affordable again, and until we stop treating basic survival like a luxury, this problem will keep getting worse. And here's the truth. People are not crying because they are weak. They're crying because the system is breaking them. What do you think? Are you seeing these prices where you're living in? Drop your story in the comment section down below, and I'd really, really appreciate. Let us know, is this cost of living skyrocketing affecting you? Is your salary able to sustain where you're living, your housing? Can your salary sustain your hospital bills? Can your salary sustain your food, that you eat throughout the month? Let me know in the comment section down below, and I'd really, really appreciate. Kindly like this video so that it can be recommended to other YouTube users. Lastly, kindly do consider subscribing to the channel. We are currently on the road to 50,000 subscribers, and guys, we can never achieve this milestone if you all don't share this video widely with your friends and family. Thank you, and see you all in our next episode. Goodbye for now.